Good morning. I am Amun Kipyegwe, and we are going to study about comparative education. First, we are going to start by looking at comparative education as a discipline, its historical development, and its methodology. We are going to define what comparative education is. Comparative education is fully established in the field of study that examines education in one country by using its data and insights drawn from the practices and situation in one country. The study of various comparative education is often contrasting education systems with a view of understanding its similarities and differences. It is an analytical of systems of education and issues or problems in education across borders, with an aim of establishing the similarities and the differences within its ecosystem. We are going to look at the scope of comparative education. By this, we imply the various studies the education systems use in order to achieve its educational purposes. First, when we compare our daily lives, it is done by what we observe, analyze, evaluate, and classify the objects or phenomena on the basis of similarities and differences. We compare when we sort, select, or differentiate and arrange objects on the same basis. Anything unique with nothing common cannot be compared. When similarities between objects are too great, comparisons become pointless. Thus, very unique and identical cannot be involved in the meaningful comparison. The systems of education can be compared because they have certain similarities. For example, generally accepted principles like the structural levels, for example, the primary and the secondary educations. The differences in educational systems of education are as a result of the influence of the national characteristics and the factors of educations, that is to mean the economical and the geographical factors. The issues in educational system and comparative education are brought about by the specific content in which the issues occur. Next, we are going to learn about the rationale for the study of educational comparative. We are going to begin by looking at what is intellectual. Intellectual in the rationale for study of comparative education is an activity where one is engaged in the study of various educational systems in the desire to be enlightened. Intellectual curiosity results in the insight that lead to better understanding of self, knowledge of others. Second, we are going to look at what is planning. Planning are the decisions to tackle problems by better understanding the formulation of the objectives, establishment of priorities, and identification of the means to achieve the objectives. By making decisions, one required to establish the criteria for which comparative education helps by making the rational basis. The humanitarian view. By this we imply the point we meet in the need of providing education that addresses the global needs like peace, freedom, equality, and better life. The knowledge of different people in different countries in their education systems is therefore necessary. We acquire these methods through techniques and finding of comparative education. Next, we are going to look at the economics of education. By this, we imply that comparative education helps to discover the differences in the forces and causes that produce the difference in educational systems. It also treats the national education systems like the national experimental laboratories dealing with similar problems. Therefore, solutions are found in different nations, their cultural conditions, and the current and political, social, economic forces. These rather put educational systems in the investment for development in their adopted educational system. In conclusion, we shall be looking at the aims of comparative education. By this, we imply what the learner or the teacher gains by studying comparative education. First, in order to learn the various societies, one has to endeavor in historical times of educational comparative education in order to learn and educate their children. It also enlightens one on how much the education system has influenced others. Another point, in order to understand the process of donating and receiving knowledge, acquiring, reconciling, and maximizing the interest of both the donor and the recipient, one has to learn comparative education. To increase one's knowledge and objectivity of judgment, one has to learn comparative education in order to facilitate the international harmony, thus discovering and appreciating what is good for everyone else, thus preventing the excessive national pride and prejudice. We shall continue from there in our next lesson. Thank you for your maximum cooperation.